Welcome back to Just Ask George. I'm David Wolf, your co-host here with George Lovato. He's the head dude at BH Capital.
Head dude.
A merchant bank. And here in this, he said, in this world, we talk about structured financing for the business owner, the business principal.
Everything one needs to know in order to form new capital, debt or equity, in this new what would you call it? Financial apocalyptic period.
Yes, it's the post-traumatic finance syndrome.
The market went up yesterday, something ungodly, and
yeah, it's very volatile.
You should watch the talking heads on CNBC, MSNBC.
Don't they just feed
Fox,
off the?
and,
they just
Bloomberg.
feed off the.
It's like, oh my! And just as fast as it went up, because I've said this time and time again. Over 10.5 right now.
Right.
Look at all the other economic factors. Yeah. The market is overvalued. It's bouncing above 12,000 right now. It's, oh my! Well,
your number's about 10.5, as you've said. But we're not here to talk about the market, folks. We're actually going to talk about something. Well, the market is decoupled from the small business lending environment. So it's fascinating to think about it. Now, in the world of structured finance, there are what we call small deals. How do you define a small deal?
I would say anything under $1 million is in my world is going to be a small transaction.
All right.
So the sweet spot in there of smallness is the $250,000 transaction, which, according to some recent data that has come out in the SBA world, those $250,000 and below transactions are not getting approved.
Right.
And that is the center of the sweet spot for the small businessman.
Oh, yeah. Now, as a merchant banker, how do you fold the small business into, your business strategy? Because I know you tend to look at larger deals, I think, more favorably.
Yeah, our sweet spot's going to be way north of that, 5 to 25 million.
So the question begs the question, what is a small business owner to do when they're sitting in this place where they think they've got a $150,000 to $300,000 problem?
We'll get involved and lightly advise on those engagements. And when I say lightly advise, there's a possibility with a certain percentage of those small transactions that those guys are actually going to grow. And so if we can recognize that, then we'll get involved.
Okay.
And we'll try and help that business principal.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. So you'll be looking for some markers to indicate it's the quality of the principal, the quality of the product, the market opportunity. What else?
What's the growth scale? Where does it? What's it going to look like 3 to 5 years from now? If he's going to be a guy that has the potential to grow into a $5 million borrower, given the proper amount, an octane of fuel in his tank, then we're gonna get involved. The problem is that, like I said, that's the sweet spot out there, and that's the vast majority of requests. So banks and SBA combined have just sort of crushed it by not responding to it. Mm-hmm. So then, what do you do? Well, last week we talked about the possibility of talking to friends, family, and former enemies and selling notes, $2,500, $5,000.
Love that model too.
And then go ahead and sell 10 or 25 of those in varying sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you need to consult your lawyer on how to properly do that and what your state disclosure requirements, registration requirements are when you're selling a multitude of notes like that. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in asking, everybody gives lawyers such a hard time, but, they are a tool in the entrepreneur's toolbox, and used wisely, they can be invaluable.
And this is a job for a securities attorney, a specialist.
Right? When you start talking about the small businessman, you don't necessarily need to hire that $400 an hour securities lawyer. You're better off if you do, but your general practitioner should know. He should know when it comes to
he'll be able to guide you and sort of be the compass for you.
So there's one option.
So you got the notes. Okay.
You got the notes. There are specialized lenders. If it's equipment, there's a whole universe of equipment lenders out there that you can go to. Mm-hmm. When you start talking about working capital and timing difference, then you've got asset-based lenders, and there's a a whole range of different types of asset-based products out there. So you can talk to those guys.
And in that case, just so folks know, they may be in an expansion mode and not understand how to structure that growth. This is tied to PO. It could be tied to AR, so it's purchase order financing.
Could be tied to purchase orders. WIP, work in
progress, which includes inventory, or maybe it's separate from inventory.
It might involve inventory financing. It might involve invoice financing. It might involve all of those things in varying rates of advance, percentage of advance. So much percentage for the purchase of commodities or equipment or supplies, so much of an advance when it goes to the invoicing stage or the work in process stage. It just there's all as many hairs as I have on my head.
And me too, folks, by the way. And there's an intricate sort of intercreditary thing that happens through the work process, isn't there,
Correct.
for manufacturing?
Correct.
I suppose.
I don't want to go too far off on that specific
I know.
tangent,
But
but the point is
right.
There's a universe out there for the little guy.
Okay.
Now, the other day I had this really interesting business principal call me, and he said, I just don't know where to go. I've been searching all over the internet, and I think he said something really crazy, like 100 different sources for what he was looking for in equipment financing.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, BH Capital is very good about keeping a database of who the players are and who the bad guys are. And it's something that, we monitor every week. And when we find out there's somebody out there that's playing not so nice and saying that they're a lender when they're not, we keep an eye on that. And so of the 100 that he found, 96 of them were on our database of the bad guys.
You're kidding. That's a pretty lousy ratio.
And the other 4 were not going to touch the transaction his size.
Right. Too small, right?
Too small. So, when someone calls like that, I try to not say no, but I try to point them in the right direction. And so I said, listen, give me your email. He gave it to me. I typed it in. I said, okay, here's where you want to go. And I gave him a list of 4. And he called back and he said, one of them said they'll do it for me.
Wow.
I said, well, great. I said, and he said, I'm not going to forget this. The old story of, guy that has a good experience, he's going to tell 15 people. He has a bad experience, he's going to tell 200. So
that's right.
We connected him to that part of the universe. So it's very active. It takes a little bit more work, but it is really a huge void in the marketplace. Steve, our director producer, has come up with an idea, and he has convinced me to kind of go back to that small deal processing.
Interesting. And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, and we've got a shortened approach to help those people and punch the deals through our normal BH Capital process pipeline, but do it in such a manner that there's not an excessive cost to that individual, and I'll be blogging about that.
Yeah, this is
because it's just such a big void out there, and I feel bad for those guys.
And I was going to, as a merchant banker, you're adapting to this. You see this huge opportunity and void, not only to help businesses, but also there's a revenue model for a merchant bank as well, and maybe there's something in there that makes sense economically. So, but there is money out there. There's a way to get these small deals done. It ain't going to be your bank, and so you'll be blogging about this soon.
And more than likely, there won't be an SBA guarantee on it.
There won't be, right? Exactly. Well, for the small business owner, there is help. There's also the micro lending environment. I know.
True. For the even really teeny tiny deals.
Yes, very teeny tiny. So, sort of this other spectrum within the larger spectrum. George, thanks as always.
Right on, man.
Really appreciate it. BHCapitalLTD.com for more information. You can also visit the Obstacle Course, the website www.theobstaclecoursebooks.com for the writing, and you documented a real life-changing process of growing a company, taking it public, and the whole emotional side of it, the whole process side of it.
Building a business and financing it through all of its various phases before I was turned the ripe old age of 30. And even when, I tell some of those stories in the book all the time to clients, and every time I go back to one of those, it just time warp, that hurt.
And you can find them in the Obstacle Course books.
Obstacle Course, those stories
that's
are
good
there.
stuff.
And is soon to come out, Stupid Without a License, free ebook with video segments woven into all that fabric of all those stories.
I think I'm a part of that.
You are.
That texture.
You are. You're actually the main thread.
Well, thank you. Just Ask George. You can find us here next time. BHCapitalLTD.com. George.
Right on, brother.
Thanks.
Appreciate
See you next time.
Bye bye.